Welcome back to The Wandering Screen. I'm Matt Carson. Today, I'm listing my top films you should watch this Valentine's Day. Okay, so you wanted to go see Wuthering Heights next weekend, and you just discovered it is actually going to be a massive, unexpected cinematic event. Thank you, Margot Robbie. And all the seats at your local theaters are booked out. So I wanted to give you some alternatives this Valentine's Day, inspired films that you should check out because I have been told that Wuthering Heights isn't exactly a romantic film. I have not read the book. I have not seen the film. I think I've listened to the song by Kate Bush a few times because my partner loves it. I'm going to give you some anti-romantic suggestions that on the surface probably shouldn't be your typical Valentine's Day viewing, but I will share some special mentions at the end of the video as well of actual romantic films I love that you should check out. I think that when it comes to anti-romantic films, we do want to see love on the screen, but then the love maybe doesn't last. The first film that came to mind that you should watch this Valentine's Day as an anti-romantic film is actually one of my favorites. Moulin Rouge, directed by Baz Luhrmann, starring Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor. Look, it's a musical. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of love songs in this movie. It also ends with a very tragic death. So you wouldn't necessarily call it a romantic film, and it should probably give you a lot of pulls at the heartstrings because it's very emotional at the end. And I think what's really fun about this movie on a Valentine's Day is also how colorful it is. It's all pop songs except for Come What May, which was actually really popular when the film came out. And it is just going to be a memorable night for you and your partner or even group of friends to just sit back, revisit or watch for the first time an absolute classic romantic drama. And speaking of romantic dramas, you know what I watched last weekend because I just needed an antidote? Titanic. Over 3 hours long. This is a romantic film, and it ends again in another death. We have Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet starring in John Cameron's epic film. And it is shot so beautifully. It still holds up. It looks a little bit miniature, the boat, once you learn how the craft of the film was made, but it still really holds up story-wise because that connection between Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet is so essential, and they have such amazing chemistry. And also to see Rose, Kate Winslet's character's progression throughout the film and eventually why she doesn't leave the ship without Leonardo DiCaprio's character is actually really romantic. I did turn to my partner when I was watching it and I said, you know what? I would jump back on the Titanic for you. I would. So I think this should definitely be on your list. And actually, I'm going to bring up alongside Titanic an romantic film that came out last year called Eternity, starring Miles Teller, Elizabeth Olsen, and Callum Turner. And this is by no ways, accurate at all. But I really think that it lives in the same universe as Titanic. It is about an elderly couple, basically, that die a week apart. And the man, played by Miles Teller, is waiting for Elizabeth Olsen, his wife. And when she shows up, it turns out that her first love from 60 years prior, played by Callum Turner, has been waiting for decades for her to die so they can be together in the afterlife. And, watching Titanic again, it made me think about old Rose and the family that she had and that she, pretty much eventually dies at the end of the film. But when she actually goes into the afterlife and she sees, possibly her husband, and then she sees Jack, Leonardo DiCaprio, she maybe went through the same conundrum as Elizabeth Olsen's character in Eternity. So I don't know if they're related. They might be in the same world. I'm calling it now. They are in the same world. I think you should check out Eternity as well. It's actually really romantic and surprisingly really touching. But you know what's not touching? Blue Valentine, directed by Derek Cianfrance and starring Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams. And this is an anti-romantic film. This is pretty much a film that says, maybe you weren't the right one. Maybe I was a little impulsive. Maybe, you know, you were just good looking. It is very tough watch. It is absolutely mesmerizing performances. You will not regret watching this film whatsoever, but it is very tough to see the disintegration of a love. So do check that out because it's really fantastic. Another film that comes up when I think about anti-romantic film that are actually really romantic is Call Me By Your Name, directed by Luca Guadagnino and starring Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer and Michael Stahlberg. This is actually very romantic, and my favorite parts in this whole film are when Ilio and Oliver, played by Timothy and Armie respectively, actually find out that the other has been wanting to hook up with the other or be together. When they reveal the subtle hints that they were leaving for one another, I thought was incredibly romantic. And then it kind of devolves into this like lost love narrative that's really beautifully performed by Timothy Chalamet. If you've ever seen the final shot, which is just him staring to a fire and crying, it is heightened drama. I absolutely love this film. It will make you hug your love more and deeper because what Elio goes through, especially at that tender age in his late teens, I'm sure was really, really heartbreaking for him. And it's also, really heartbreaking, when someone doesn't look after you when you're sick. And, Phantom Thread, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, is actually the opposite of that. It's what if your partner was making you sick and you fucking loved it? If I'm going to add Call Me By Your Name onto this list, I also want to mention the film Weekend, directed by Andrew Hay, who directed a couple of years ago All of Us Strangers with Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott. And his film Weekend is about two guys that meet each other one night, spend a weekend together, having conversations, having sex, and eating food. Before the end of the film, spoiler alert, is that basically they have to leave each other and one gets on the train and the other waits at the station. And it's actually really romantic because they have such great chemistry and it's so, God, it just like kind of made me believe in the possible love, being gay myself, just knowing that love was out there and you can meet someone by chance. It is very, very romantic and very sad at the end. So it is kind of in that anti-romantic territory. But if that's not your jam either, but you have an HBO Max subscription, you know what? Just binge watch Heated Rivalry. That will probably be the same length as Titanic. I also wanted to bring up as a romantic option for you, The Lake House, starring Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. This was the film they reunited on after they starred together in Speed. And this is also the film that I took my ex-girlfriend to, the last film that we watched together before we broke up. So little did she know. But it's actually a very romantic film about a doctor who buys a lake house. And when she puts an envelope in the mailbox, a guy from 2 years prior finds the mail. It doesn't make any sense on paper, but it is beautifully, beautifully told. And a lot of it is through the letters that they're sending to each other. And I really love the kind of montages of passing time. It's very romantic. Also, a film that I love if we're talking about passing time and, also a love that spans across years and even decades is Gina Prince Bythewood's Love and Basketball, which stars Sanaa Lathan and Omar Epps. It is incredibly romantic. It is so well made. It's basically about two kids who have known each other, always bonded over basketball, and fall in love like after their childhood, and then go through life together and separately through college and stardom. And it is just a very well told story. And the chemistry between the two leads is fantastic. I highly recommend it. And if we're talking about leads of rom-coms, we got to mention Hugh Grant, absolutely classic. Let's put some British films onto this list. Let's put Notting Hill there because then you get a little bit of Julia Roberts without having to touch Runaway Bride or Pretty Woman or My Best Friend's Wedding. Just go straight to Notting Hill with Hugh Grant, where she plays an A-list actress that pretty much falls for a bookstore owner in Notting Hill. I love this film. It is so much fun. It is very romantic, and it's got a really great end scene as well with basically where they end up. And if we're going to also talk about Hugh Grant as a lead of a romantic film, we should also talk about Bridget Jones's Diary, because he's actually the villain in the piece. But, you know, if you want to watch all the films back to back, or just jump from the first film, Bridget Jones's Diary, to Bridget Jones' Man About the Boy, it also works, because he actually ends up becoming one of the closest friends of Bridget Jones, you know, by the time we get to the fourth film. So it's a lot of fun. I'm adding this film also for my mother because she loves this film too, and I think she should watch it this Valentine's Day. And one other British film, Pride and Prejudice, is so romantic and about, you know, misinterpreting the signs and getting false information from someone about someone else that you're interested in. And it's directed by Joe Wright and starring Keira Knightley. And it's just such a romantic film. The fight in the rain always gets me. I love it. Go check it out. And I want to end on one last film. It is a film that people argue about the ending, whether it is actually romantic. 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore plays someone that forgets things every day, and Adam Sandler plays her love interest, reminding her. And it's incredibly romantic that they end up together. And, you know, we can debate the ending of this film. I'm going to give you my take, and then in the comments below, feel free to add yours. I think that she watches that video in the end on the boat and she realizes, this is where I'm at. This is my kid. Look where I am. And my father is here. I must be safe. Her father's on the ship with her. So let's not go crazy. She probably spent half an hour piecing everything together and in total shock. I would say Adam Sandler's character wouldn't actually have done it if he didn't think that she would respond well. And given that they actually got that far and that's the end scene that we're seeing, they'd probably been on the boat by that stage for quite a long time. So it's been a tried and tested formula that her watching the video and then coming upstairs actually works. Those are my romantic films this Valentine's Day. Tell me in the comments section below, what are you going to watch? What do you want to see this Valentine's Day? What are your romantic films? All the best, all the love, and see you next time.